What's going on, guys? Fun of Thighs back again, and I have something truly special to show you in this video. You guys know exactly what's in this box. You saw the title of the video and clicked on it, and I really want to preface this little overview with this disclaimer. I am completely enamored with this design, and I have been for quite some time, really since I saw its inception, or the first little looks we had at prototypes through Instagram and a couple of channels on YouTube. I thought it was the coolest design ever, and I've been waiting to get my hands on one for quite some time, and I actually got the ability to do that through Zel and WE Knives. So this is a loaner. This is just going to be a little guest knife overview. I'm going to show you guys what comes with the knife, give you some specs and that kind of stuff. But really, this is a completely subjective look at a knife that I think is truly awesome, although it might not be the most functional thing in the world. But we can talk about that a little bit. Now that we're a minute in, let's look at the WE Knives Eschaton. This is an Elijah Isham design, and it just speaks to me on so many levels. So we'll talk about the packaging a little bit towards the end. I know a lot of people aren't into that, but they did a good job with it. So this is a 719B. There's two versions of the Eschaton. This happens to be the one with a carbon fiber portion of the handle, whereas there's another version that is completely titanium, and a kind of cool color variation as well. Check that out if you can. There's a very limited run on both of these models, so if you want one, it is time to get one, and maybe this video will sway you one way or another. But cool presentation on this for sure. Let's open this thing up. Get a WE Knives cleaning cloth, and you do get a certificate of authenticity, if I can get this out of here without bending it up. This is number 39 of 700, so only 700 of this particular variation were made, so kind of cool, a little bit exclusive there. And here is the knife. Let's get it out of there, open this thing up, and show you the true beauty behind this design. Whew. To me, this is one of the most breathtaking, interesting, unique, all of those synonyms in one, encompassed in one design. It's just so damn beautiful. It just is. It speaks to me because you guys know, if you follow the channel at all, that I love futuristic designs. Something about them, they just look cool to me, and I actually like how a lot of my more futuristic knives perform, and I don't think this would be any different, although I do not want to throw this in pocket, get it scratched up in any aspect, because it's not my knife. It's going actually off to a few more channels, so you can kind of watch this thing's journey as it travels some other great channels, and they get to talk about it, see it. But guys, this thing is just absolutely awesome. I love this thing, and I posted a picture on my Instagram just about a week ago, maybe a little bit less than that, and I asked, kind of in a poll fashion, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you see this design? And I definitely had some mixed results, and I'll read you some of those answers from fellow knife Instagram people. Somebody said Decepticon, which I think is a definitely a valid way to look at this thing. It certainly looks like Megatron, something very futuristic and robotic in nature, maybe a little bit biomechanical with its there was an interview I watched with Elijah Isham with Knife Center. He had something he said about sinuous designs, as in like a sinew kind of feel to it. I can definitely see that in this thing. Another one said Transformer or Alien. Definitely looks otherworldly. Does not look like it's from this world. Somebody said, damn. I totally agree with that one. And then we get into some of the more, we had another one, Captain Kirk. So again, hearkening to that space age kind of theme. But somebody said non-functional. Another person said impractical, unfinished, and probably my favorite comment, how can you sharpen that? So I think this is definitely a mixed bag when it comes to people's feelings on this knife. And I don't want to say it's necessarily a either you love it or you hate it kind of design, but that seems to be my experience with it, at least in some of the family members, the friends, the colleagues that I've shown this knife. If you can't tell, this might be a long video because I'm just drooling over this thing. But I showed quite a few people, and it was a really mixed bag. A lot of people said, wow, that's a cool looking knife, A lot of people said, that is literally the ugliest knife I've ever seen. That doesn't even look like it would cut anything. What's with all the holes? And I don't get this shape. And it was such a mixed bag. Some of these people were saying, this looks like something Drax would carry from Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, it's kind of that space age theme. And And I think on one level, a lot of these people are correct, whether they're in love with the design or they're not. But to me, and I think Epic Snuggle Bunny pointed this out perfectly. He had a kind of an Eschaton revisited video where he talked about this is really a flex of muscle for WE Knives for picking up such an incredibly weird, sophisticated, and I'm sure difficult to produce knife. That this is really them saying, look at what we can create out of these phenomenal materials. So, man, 5.5 minutes in, we haven't even given you the specs. So, specs on this guy, let's get into it. You got a 3.85 inch length blade. Your handle length is just under 5 inches at 4.95, with your overall length being 8.8 inches. So this is a fairly large knife. It's not huge, but it's kind of long. The blade thickness here is 0.16 at its thickest point, so fairly thick blade, but obviously with the holes, the skeletonization, the design aspects, it's not incredibly heavy, at least in the blade. Definitely not as a whole. We'll talk about that. Handle thickness is 0.56 inches, so a little bit of girth back here on this kind of sub-integral design. And again, this is using 2 pieces of carbon fiber with 1 piece of titanium. So this entire rear end or rear half of the handle is completely 1 piece of titanium, which is really cool. Again, a kind of flex of muscle to show, look how, proficient, look how adventurous we are with our machining coming from WE Knives. And that's not even talking about the design yet, which we'll definitely get to, but the weight on this guy is only 3 ounces. And that just seems incredible to me for a knife of this size. And yes, of course, it's because of the use of heavily skeletonized materials, both in steel and carbon fiber and titanium. And we all know CF is really light stuff anyway, but really 3 ounces for a knife of this size, that is awesome. That in and of itself is an achievement, both from Elijah Isham and WE Knives. Now, this is a liner lock, and it's kind of a hidden liner lock. This is something I kind of noticed when I saw that there was a carbon fiber version and a full titanium version. I assumed the titanium version would be a frame lock, and that's not the case. These are both liner locks, but they are both exceedingly solid. So not only is this an incredibly cool art piece, I think it could be a functional knife. We'll talk about that when we get to the blade grind and stuff, but the materials used here are top notch. We have an M390 blade. I think this is designated somewhere here. Yep, right. Flip it around there, you can actually see it. M390 steel from Bowler, so excellent steel. You can see here the number 39 out of 700. You got kind of a two-tone blade going on, compound ground. You can call this a Warncliffe reverse Tonto or something entirely in its, of its own. It's its own class of blade shape. But you can see stone-washed grinds here, a stone-washed swedge, and then some satin, I guess you could call those flats, with a stone-washed spine. So a cool two-tone. The other version in titanium, if you guys have seen it, I'm sure you have. If you've clicked on this video, you've probably been thinking about buying this knife, or at least just want to see it on camera one more time. It has a black coating with some, I think it's some satin flats or vice versa. It's another two-tone blade of a greater contrast. But really, the blade kind of steals the show for a lot of people that don't like the design. They don't like this incredibly different compound ground blade. And really, to me, the grind is a little bit wedgy. I mean, it's fairly thick. You can see here from this perspective, if you're coming from 0.16 inch thick stock, which is fairly thick for a folding knife, a lot of your beefier knives are made that way out of that similar stock thickness. You're coming from full stock thickness here. I mean, that's only a third or halfway up the blade, meaning this won't slice very well. And if you couple that with all of the holes drilled out all over the blade for design purposes and for, again, that flex of muscle in machining and, and care they took to finish this knife, there's going to be a lot of gunk caught up in these kind of holes here. That's just what's going to happen. But it will cut stuff. And yes, it came extremely sharp. I mean, the bevels are perfect. There's nothing that's off center here. The fit and finish for the most part is just outstanding. But I do agree. I don't think this is a most practical blade shape, and I don't think it was meant to be. This is supposed to be something that is completely unique, and I think they nailed it. So a few features of the blade I like is the light stone wash on it. Do you think it looks really cool? I love that there's multiple different dimensions within the blade. It's not just they put holes in it. I mean, there's different layers. You can see this piece here is a thinner stock than the rest of the blade. Even these little fullers or chamfers or whatever you want to call them continue throughout the spine of the blade, both towards the tip and towards the rear portion of the blade. And the whole thing, if you ignore the handle itself, it flows so well. This line flows into that line. I mean, from a design aspect, I don't know how Elijah Isham pulled this thing off. I just think it's beautiful to me, and a little bit aggressive and a little bit just out there. It's just very cool. And then you get those satin flats catching some light. Just a very cool two-tone blade. There's one thing I don't love, however, about the blade is kind of the unfinished look that they have on the inside of these holes. You can see here, that's not the case on every little facet or every little angle of this thing, but certain ones just kind of got a machined look to them. There wasn't any finishing done inside of that, which is kind of odd to me. Maybe they did that on purpose. You can definitely see that there. Kind of a weird choice, but I still dig it. So let's go to deployment here. This is, I think, a point of contention for some of the people that love this knife but may not love the very tiny flipper tab. You see there's some jimping on there, but it does flip extremely well. It's got a great detent. It flips out every time for me. I haven't had any weird deployments. It's definitely more of a light switch. I don't think a push button is going to be too effective with something it's pointing up a little bit. It's a little bit uncomfortable on your finger. But no, this is not the most readily accessible flipper, although it does flip very well. You can see your external stop pin there, and of course this is riding on bearings, caged inside of these CF scales here. The action's great, and yes, you can open it with all these holes in the blade. You can definitely slow roll it out. If I can do this right, I haven't been messing with this knife too much, don't want to get any wear on it, but you can flick it out, and you can even do the middle finger flick. So all sorts of ways to open the blade. I don't think any of them are insanely easy, but they're not too difficult. Again, the finishing on the inside of the blade can be sharp at times, so be careful of that if you guys are going to think this is a completely rounded off, chamfered, very easy on the hands kind of opening. When you're using this, that's not the case. So let's look at this. Sorry guys, bumping the camera. Let's look at this carbon fiber with all of its different 3D aspects, all of its different cuts and chamfers. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Look how much detail alone is going into this carbon fiber. And again, not an expert on carbon fiber, but this seems to be pretty high quality stuff. Seems to be a good sheen to it. There's not a whole lot of texture, of course, but there's just a little bit. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of pocketing or divots or anything like that, or inconsistencies within the material. The only thing I really notice is whatever hole that they screwed through right there. You see there's a little bit of leftover material which can easily be plucked out, but something from them drilling this hole for this screw kind of pushed some carbon fiber material out, if I can get that out. But overall, the carbon fiber I think is awesome, and it's part of the reason the ergonomics are so good on this knife. This little divot here for, of course, being your finger choil, but some of the work that they did around that finger choil just feels amazing in your hand, coupled with this big kind of thumb depression rather than a thumb ramp, just lends itself to be really good in the hand, especially in your standard saber grip. It just really works well. And of course, you can choke up onto the sharpening choil a little bit. It's big enough for a full finger, but just be a little careful. There's not much of a ramp for you to get on top of that edge. You can get up here on it. And not that you'd use a knife in a reverse grip, especially one like this. It's not too bad. I mean, this point's a little thin, but we're kind of moving our way back here. We talked about deployment. Lockup is pretty solid. Another nitpicky thing here is going to be the jimping of the liner lock. Definitely there to help you access that lock bar, move it over. It's a little bit, I just want to say it doesn't fit the knife as well as I think they could have done it. You can see it's got just kind of some bumps to it. There's no real angular design to match the knife, and it just doesn't seem to fit. Plus, if you really were going to cut with this or really choke up hard on it, you're going to get a little bit of, I don't want to say a hot spot, but a feeling there from that liner lock. But not a huge deal. Lockup's pretty nice and early, but yet solid. If I can get that in the light there. It'll focus for me. Come on. You can see there, early lockup, but there's no lock stick whatsoever. I believe that's a steel lock bar, so you got steel on steel contact. And it's only on one side, so you don't really need another lock or another piece of steel on the other side, considering this is a half titanium handle, and it's all machined out of one piece. So how cool is that? This one piece that perfectly matches the blade, both in design and execution, is completely one piece. look at all the different angles and things they did with this to make it good in hand, but also make it look incredibly cool. Blade centering, perfect. And the clip on this guy, I haven't put it in pocket, honestly, too many times. I put it in a couple pairs of jeans to make sure this height of the clip was good enough to actually be carried. And it was. It seems to have good spring to it. And it flows so well with the knife that it's almost not there. I mean, when I first looked at this knife, I was like, there's no clip? Oh, okay, gotcha. That's how well this thing is thought out. It's so flowing that it almost takes my mind off a knife. This thing is so well designed, it makes me think of movies and TV shows, and I mean all sorts of different things that aren't even knife related, that I think this is bigger than just a knife design. At least that's my input on it, because obviously I like this design quite a lot, and really this is just me showcasing it to you guys in case you were interested, in case you have similar taste, or in case you wanted to hate on the knife a little bit. I'm sure I'll get that, about how this is the most impractical knife you've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. I think this could perform decently well as an EDC knife, although it wouldn't be my first choice. But yes, I would love to own this one. And even if it was a safe queen, which I've never really treated a knife that way, I would most certainly make an exception for this one. As you can see, Elijah Isham's logo there, pretty cool logo, and then Eschaton written on the back in a very cool, again, space agey kind of font. So all in all, guys, I mean, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this knife. Whether, I mean, you guys might own them already; they've been out for a little while now. But if you just think this is a cool design, like I do, if you just think it's off the rails, it's not something you're even remotely interested in, at the very least, I think we can concur and say that it's unique, it's different. There's no other knife on the market that looks like this, unless it's one of Elijah Isham's designs. In fact, I think he's done a collaboration with Browse Blades that is a fairly similar design, even though this one speaks to me a little bit more. I really can't get over how well this is in hand. I mean, the ergonomics were surprising to me, considering I was looking at this mainly as some sort of art piece, that I wasn't really thinking of it as, you know, the most practical knife in the world. The ergonomics are extremely practical, I think. And I think it would serve you well if you wanted to carry this. I think it could definitely go in that role. I mean, look at this action, too. Look at this just drop shut. Whew. Beautiful. Hats off to Elijah Isham and WE Knives for pulling this thing together. What an amazing piece. So thanks for watching, guys, as always. And thanks again to Zel WE Knives for giving us, by us, I mean me and some other YouTubers, some other knife guys, the opportunity to look at this model. That thing's kind of ongoing, where we get to pass a knife around. Really cool to be a part of that. I'm definitely grateful for that. So thanks for watching, guys. Oh, almost forgot. We'll keep it under 20 minutes. Let's look at what you get. I'm sorry. Almost. We might have to edit that out. Let's edit it out. But we might have to look at what comes with this knife, because this is a limited edition from WE Knives. It's not just any old knife. So as you saw right from the get-go, you're going to get an iridescent kind of white cardboard box with the gold embossed letters there, and of course your model number. It looks pretty cool. I mean, you can definitely see, if you've handled WE Knives before or bought any, that this is something special. Of course, whoa, bumping my camera, and it says limited. So let's look at this box here. This, I think, is the way to do some fancy packaging without going overboard, without making the consumer feel like, well, why did you spend all the money on packaging, not enough on the knife? Very cool looking box. It says limited on it. Limited edition right there, limited edition. They want you to know that you have something special here. You're going to open it up. Got the signature of the CEO and the logo there, and then a custom fit foam and kind of silky thing to hold the knife in place, with, of course, your little divot to get it out. But honestly, if I own this knife, it would probably stay in this if I was out and about. And of course, it would always be outside of this box, so I could be messing with it at home. But you still get your WE Knives cleaning cloth, and as I mentioned previously, the WE Knives certificate of authenticity. Again, with your specs, some contact information, the designer, the materials used, your serial number out of 700, or I think the titanium version's out of 500. Very cool for them to do. Like I said, I think it's just enough to show that, look, this is a limited design. It's something special. Not everybody's going to get one of these without going insanely expensive, you know, extravagant and overboard. So, again, good job on WE Knives. I gotta say, guys, this is the coolest knife that I've ever had in my possession, that's ever been near me. bar none. So thanks for watching, guys, as always, and remember, have fun with your knives.